Hi everyone, it's Chenzo from Reality Art Pod, here to talk about Season 1, Episode 10, the season finale of Fox's The Snake, titled The Final Bite. Last time on The Snake, double-headed snake Jordan and Brett could not see eye to eye, but Jordan got her way, saving her allies, and in the end, McLean and Amanda were told to hit it. Before I dive in, I put a link in the description to my playlist to catch up on the season's recaps. If you like the content, consider liking and subscribing. Thank you to anyone who found my channel through these videos. I'm also recapping Big Brother, The Challenge, and upcoming Survivor 49. But let's dive into it. Right after the saving ceremony, the final six are surprised by Jim, who tells them the finale is starting immediately. In the next 2 days, they'll compete in 2 challenges. The winners of each challenge will be the final two in the game. The first competition is simple. They'll take turns rolling dice, trying to get snake eyes. The first player to roll snake eyes automatically is in the final two, and the last person to roll snake eyes is eliminated from the entire show. This is such a lame way to eliminate someone at the final six. So they start rolling the dice. Nothing more thrilling than roll after roll. Brett asks Jack for a lucky kiss on his bicep, which he doesn't get, but he doesn't need. He rolls snake eyes, and just like that is a finalist on this program. Followed by Frankie, Jordan, and Alyssa. It all comes down to Jack and Derek, and Jack rolls the snake eyes, which eliminates Detective Derek from the game. So we say goodbye to Detective Derek, who was a frontrunner on the show from the onset. He was the leader of the secondary alliance with Jacob and Amanda that were giving the guys alliance a run for their money. But he also had a strong relationship with the guys, and especially Brett, that saw him narrowly avoiding danger multiple times. I'd love to see him again on another show. He has the potential as a strategist and as a competitor that I don't think we were fully able to see. Moving on to the next day, players get to their final challenge, where they each have 6 crates with 2 missing sides. They need to put their puzzle pieces on their crates, spelling out the occupations of the eliminated players in the order that they were eliminated. This is a much better challenge than the one the day prior. They get started. This was chaotic to watch. Jack doesn't remember who the teacher was. I barely remember Christine the teacher either, Jack. Jordan's confused and falls behind. Alyssa and Frank end up in the lead. Frank is confident in his social game and his memory, but Frank pops his quad and has an injury, falling down to the ground. He has the choice to see a medic and to pull himself from the challenge, but he chooses to keep playing, so he's limping through it, and he calls for a check, ultimately winning the challenge and joining Brett in the final two. It was awesome to see him win his first challenge with this injury, and Alyssa gives him a big proud hug. So there's a bloodbath elimination of the other 3 players. Let's talk about them, starting with Jordan, who had a bit of a quieter edit through the first half of the season, being portrayed as friend of Catherine, friend of Frankie and Alyssa. Even though she seemed to have a lot going on with her own game, she starts winning challenges and is involved in a lot of the drama and fighting, which made me like her a lot as a character that I wouldn't mind seeing again. And OnlyFans Alyssa, who had one of the more interesting careers as an OnlyFans model. Interesting for her to be included here, as this show ended up being so family friendly, where they blur out butt cheeks and they never really talk about her profession, which normally wouldn't be a big deal, but the show is so focused on everyone's professions. She ends up being really quiet throughout the show, teamed up with Frankie. She does pretty well in challenges, even winning Snake, even though that was a 0 skill win. In this episode, she did really well in the last challenge, and I'd say I wanted to see her again on TV, but I feel like if we start dipping into the OnlyFans talent pool, there's gotta be people way more funny and outrageous. And finally, Jack, who seemed like the frontrunner from the beginning, getting the most confessionals. He led the guys alliance and had a showmance with McLean. It seems like he had everything he needed to be unstoppable. He won the snake twice, once after he was accused of cheating in the eating challenge, and a second time, a very convenient win in the secret snake challenge. Was the eating challenge somehow being rigged? Remember when they didn't have the footage? How do you not have the footage? The other players should have taken him out at multiple times, but he had a stranglehold on the game. I would say his alliance were stronger because they seem more organized. He should have been in the final two, especially after Frankie's injury. Like, how did he really not remember Christine was a teacher that much that he couldn't catch up to someone who was laying on the ground in agony? What a fall from grace. I could see him reappearing on the challenge and doing pretty well. Heading into the final saving ceremony, Frank makes sure his mug is beat, and Brett makes sure his buttons are undone. Jim says that Frankie played a great social game, and Brett played better in challenges. They get up on the platform with Jim, revealing that 8 players are returning. All of the eliminated players who were snakes come back to form the jury: Catherine, Jacob, Derek, Alyssa, Mayor John, Jack, McLean, and Jordan. The final 2 will take turns removing players from the pit, and the 1 player left standing in the end will single-handedly decide the winner. I love this final twist. I think it's cool and unique, and a way for the saving ceremony to ultimately decide the winner. The former snakes all plead their cases to get chosen. I don't see why they really want to be the one who decides. There's no cash prize for it. Mayor John gives a whole political speech that makes Derek ask them to give John the hook. The final 2 have to make the first choice together, and then they can eliminate 3 players each. Together, they choose to eliminate Catherine. Catherine says, "Damn, what did I do?" with a whole montage of all the shady things that she's done this season. Brett chooses to eliminate Alyssa. Frank eliminates Jack. Brett takes out Pastor Jacob. Frank eliminates Brett's friend, Detective Derek. Brett's final pick is Jordan, leaving Frankie to make the final kill. He takes out McLean, leaving Mayor John the final decision maker. How did we get here? The final 2 pitch to Mayor John to choose them. Frank says he's always been himself, and he worried that his sincerity would be his downfall. He gets emotional saying he learned to believe in himself. He wants to give back to people affected with cancer, just like his family had to deal with. Everyone's getting emotional for this, even John. Brett is so annoyed in confessional, feeling like Frank is looking for a sympathy vote. Brett's plan is to appeal to the politician in John. In his speech, he says he's not going to give a sob story, saying he participated in every single challenge, and Frank, in 4 shown examples, chose not to play. He says he's honored every promise he's made in the game, and tells Mayor John that in his mayor life, he claims to put his emotions aside and should do the same thing now. Mayor John restates their points back to them, affirming that they both had fair points, but he ultimately chooses Frankie as the final snake and the winner of the $100,000. Frankie says, through tears, holy macaroni. So let's reflect on this final 2, starting with Brett, who had silly confessionals from the beginning. In the end, he was right about his own game. He was great in challenges and super active in the strategy of it, with his guys' alliance and his double dealing with Derek. He put in the work to get himself to the finale. In this episode, he lucked his way into the final 2, though I think he could have won the second challenge as well. I don't think anyone could beat Frank in the final 2, but he put up a good fight and made the points that he could have made. I would love to see him on the challenge. I think he's way too fit to not put him in a more competitive environment, and I feel there are more sides to him that we haven't seen. And our winner, Frankie, who had the most authentic personality on this cast. His confessional commentary throughout was light and brought up the vibe of the show. He spends most of the season attached at the hip with Alyssa, at times feeling like they weren't really actively playing and just picking each other at the saving ceremonies. Though we saw them using their glam station as a place people would come and talk game with them, we saw him building the strong relationship with Mayor John that ultimately gave him the win, and I'm happy that he got the money after we learned about his backstory earlier in the season. He's a fun character who's definitely going to be in the running for my 2025 All-Stars cast this winter. Stay tuned for that. And that ends the first season of The Snake, a show that presented itself as a game of deceit, hosted by alleged comedian Jim Jeffries, who didn't crack many jokes at all throughout the whole season. He either took it way too seriously or just didn't want to be there. If I had to guess, both. There were some highlights. I liked the base concept of the snake every week, starting the safety chain. That was the best part. The casting was also really good. So many interesting dynamic characters, though I think the production fumbled these characters by pigeonholing them into their careers, which both dehumanized and stereotyped them in a way. Another thing that really sucked was the challenges. The dinner plate challenge, the dice challenge, assigning power to players at random who didn't earn it, or eliminating someone at random. I hate that. And I felt like there was a lack of integrity from the production. A lot of things felt like production interference. I also don't like how 2 players were randomly dropped into the game like halfway through, and they were also the 2 worst people on the cast. That was a mess. In the end, on a show that slogan is backstab, betray, or be gone, it ends up with the final 2 pitching against each other, both saying they were the better, more honest person, and this really great, genuine person in Frankie won the day in a way that was satisfying, but also makes the whole show's concept seem like a failed experiment that I don't think will get a season 2, but it was fun while it lasted. And that's all I have to say about this season of The Snake. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Frankie's win. If you like this video, consider liking and subscribing. Until next time, you know where to find me. Bye.